Today's math lesson is lesson 3.4. We are going to be actually breaking this up into 2 days. So today is just 3.4 part 1. You need to title your journal, Multiplying Fractions by Fractions. Make sure you have a spot for the date and the lesson number. Find a yellow-green, like a lime green, and a violet purple, just a plain purple. And push pause on the video to get your journal set up. The journal that you wrote should say this. If it doesn't say this yet, you need to pause the video. It should say, when you multiply a fraction by a fraction, you are taking a piece of a piece. So here's an example. 2/3 of a half. So it's like I have a half a candy bar, and I'm going to take 2/3 of the half. So I'm going to take some pieces of the half. Okay, so it's got to be smaller than the half because that's what I started with, and I'm going to take pieces of it and remove it. So multiplying a fraction by a fraction is taking a piece of a piece. All right, we're going to write the steps up here for how to do it, and then I want you to slide your journal down. So you should already have written step number 1. I guess we should read that. It says, model the second fraction compared to 1 whole and color the fraction in. Notice it says model the second fraction, so not the first fraction, the second fraction. And you draw it compared to 1 whole. I'll explain that and show that in a minute. And then you color that fraction in. So I've got to somehow show a half. In order to show a half, I need to make a whole and then color in half of it. That's what that means. But we're going to leave a lot of space here for writing all of the steps. And what I want you to do is slide down. And at your journal, here is the bottom of the journal, I want you to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then on that line above space 7, I want you to draw a purple line all the way across. We are going to be doing the modeling down here, but we're going to write the steps up here. So we're going to do step number 1 right now down here. Okay? So make sure you've written step number 1 already. It says, model the second fraction compared to 1 whole and color the fraction in. So get your pencil ready, slide down to the modeling section, and we're going to draw 1/2 because that was the second fraction. But I need to compare it to a whole, so don't be confused by that. I'm going to just draw in the middle here. I'm just going to draw a whole. Maybe I can go from, I should have done it a little bit better. Yeah, let's go from the red line to the pink line. That always helps us stay organized. And then we're going to do only one line thick or wide. Okay? This is 0. And over here is 1. And we're going to write whole. You don't always have to do that. It just helps us remember. So I have, sorry, I don't know why it's so blurry. Oh, wow, now it's really zoomed in. That's fun. So what you're going to do is draw that 1 whole, and then make sure you have a 0 on the side and a 1 whole over there. And you have to model a half of that. In order to model a half of that, you just go right in between the 0 and 1 whole, and you put a halfway mark. Okay? But we're going to actually take half of it, like we're taking half of the candy bar. So we have 0, we have 1/2, and then we had 1 whole over there. Okay? Okay, now I'm zoomed out, and you can see 0, 1/2, 1 whole. So we need to model 1/2, which we did. We compared it to a whole so we can show it. And we're supposed to color the fraction in. So let's just let's just do our purple color. Okay? And we're going to color in 1/2 of it. Remember to always start on the left and work your way up. Don't just pick any half you want. Always start on the left. Okay, I've colored it in. That was step number 1. Step number 2. So we're going to slide up to our steps. And we're going to write step number 2. Skip a line. Circle it. Step number 2. Take the first fraction. Now we're going to deal with the first fraction. Take the first fraction and split the colored piece take the first fraction and split the colored piece into more pieces. And you're going to do that with whatever the denominator says. So let's put that in parentheses. Whatever the denominator says. Close the parentheses. This is going to be really important that you add this part too. It's also split the rest of the whole. Will you please underline that in purple? That's going to be really important. Also split the rest of the whole. And you can outline the number 2. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, step by step. Take the first fraction, so 2/3, and split the colored piece. Now we have a purple colored piece down here. Split that into more pieces. How many more pieces? Whatever the denominator says. So the first fraction, the denominator says 3. So I take the half and I'm going to split it into 3. So I need 3 pieces here, which means I draw 2 lines, right? I don't know how even those will be, but okay. Do I have 3 pieces now? I sure do. But it also says, also split the rest of the whole. So I got to do the same thing over here, which means if this half has 3 pieces, then this half needs to have 3 pieces. So we can do the same thing. I like my cuts to come outside of the line a little bit. You don't have to do that. I just like to do that. Okay, so I have officially done that. I have split all of those things. Okay, let's move on to step number 3. Step number 3. Circle only the amount of new pieces. Just a minute and you'll understand what that means more. Circle only the amount of new pieces. So we just drew a bunch of new pieces. Circle only the amount of new pieces that the numerator says. Of which fraction? It's of that first fraction. In the first fraction. That's going to be really important to remember. Okay, so step number 3 is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to circle only the amount of new pieces that the numerator says in the first fraction. So we listened to, all we did for the second fraction was we just modeled a half on this bar. Then we've been doing most of the work with the first fraction, right? Because we're going to be taking 2/3 of that half. So I split all of the halves. I split both of the halves into 3s. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. Which, in case you were wondering, means they're not just thirds, they're actually sixths. 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, 6, 6, 6, which is a whole. What was right here? 3, 6. So those of you who understand modeling and math, that should make sense right there. Okay, but now I'm going to go circle only the amount of new pieces that the numerator says. The numerator says to circle 2. So I start on the left, and I'm going to circle 2. It's going to look like this. 1 of those pieces. 2 of those pieces. I used my green for that one. I think it might be important to go up here and to show, when I did my modeling of a half, I used purple. So maybe we'll do like a little, I think we can lightly color in purple without covering it. I bet you can. So I used purple to show a half. What did I use to show 2/3? I used green. So check, check. I did both of those. We will do a little check mark stuff later. So there are 5 steps and we're only on step number 3. So I've done all the modeling. I've circled what I'm supposed to, only 2 of them, and I start on the left, right? Actually, we should say circle only amount of new pieces that the numerator says in the first fraction. And then let's write start on the left. That way we know exactly where to start. Okay, let's do step number 4. Step number 4. This is how we're done doing the modeling. Now you just need to know how to understand what your answer is based on this model. So step number 4 is the numerator of your answer. So this is how we're going to find our answer. The numerator of your answer is however many pieces have both colors. That's pretty cool. Whoops, that's supposed to be a period. It's however many pieces have both colors. So it's going to need the purple and the green in this case. Okay, so let's look and see if we can find what our numerator is. What is our numerator here? This piece has purple and green. This piece has purple and green. So far I have 2. This piece just has purple, but it doesn't have green, so it can't be that one. And these pieces don't have any color at all. So it just has to be 2. Okay, so this is 2. We'll just maybe we'll just put it right here. What we should do is actually, let's write out the problem again real quick. This is 2/3 times a half equals, what was my numerator? 1, 2. Now let's go ahead and do step 5 and find out how we find out what our denominator is. This is the last step, step number 5. The denominator of your answer is simple. This is pretty great. Just count up the total pieces in the whole. I'm going to word that a little bit differently. Just count up how many pieces there are in the entire whole. Just count up how many pieces there are in the entire whole. That's really important. In the entire whole. We're just going to use a pencil to underline that. So you don't just count up these pieces, you got to count up all of them. Like what size pieces were they is why we're doing that. Okay, let me explain the model. Well, I guess we should do that real quick. Let's do number 5. The denominator of your answer is simple. Just count up how many pieces there are in the entire whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my denominator is 6. That means my answer to this problem is 2/6. Take a look at what's happening. 2/3 of a half is 2/6. I began by drawing a half, but showing you it was a half by making a whole first. So that was step number 1. Model the second fraction, a half, compared to one whole. So you always just start with a half. Show what it is, color it in. Step 2, take the first fraction, 2/3, and split the colored piece into more pieces, whatever the denominator says. The denominator says 3. So I went, and then it says also split the rest of the whole. So I go, okay. Circle only the amount of new pieces that the numerator says. It says 2. So I go, okay. The numerator of your answer, so now I'm ready, is however many pieces have both colors. This piece and this piece have both colors, so 2. And the denominator is simple. It's how many pieces are there in the entire whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 6. 1, 6. 2, 6. Can you see that? Okay. We are going to do something pretty interesting. What I want you to do is we're going to turn our journal. Ready? We're going to turn our journal. And we're going to skip the back page for now. So you're just going to write this word really lightly. Skip and circle it. Skip the back page for now. And I want you to find your workbook and go to page 91 and rip it out. Again, go to page 91 and rip it out of your workbook. Make sure your name and number get on both sides. Pause the video if you need to. I am going to skip through this because this is just a different way to look at the model instead of using, well, they did use 2 colors here, but we're just going to practice using our journal notes how to do numbers 1 and 2, okay? It says each group I circled has 2/15. Oh, sorry. We're just going to start with number 1. My bad. Number 1. Use the sixth bar to model 3/4 times 5/6. Okay, so we go with step number 1 in our journal. I'm just going to use mine. You can, don't put your journal away, keep it to the side. Step number 1 says, model the second fraction compared to 1 whole. The second fraction is 5/6. They've already done that for me. So here's 0. Here was 1 whole. 0, 1 whole. How do I show 5/6? I'm going to color in, because it says on step number 1, and color the fraction in. So I need to color in 5/6. Let's use purple. So I color in the first one. 1, 2. It would be faster if I do it this way. 3, 4. Make it look nice, but you can go fast. 5. Make sure not to color in that last one, because that would be 6/6. We only need 5/6. I'm going to show it right here. That is 5/6. Okay? That was step number 1. Step number 2. Take the first fraction, 3/4, and split the colored piece, into more pieces, and whatever the denominator says. So the denominator over here. So let's check mark the 5/6. I already did it. So I go and I have to split the colored pieces into whatever the denominator says, and it says fourths. It says fourths. So guess what that means? That means I have to take every single one of these little pieces and cut it into fourths. And then that one, and then this one, and then that one. You get it. So we'll start with the first one. I take the first 6 and I'm going to cut it into fourths, which is pretty easy because you just go half, half, half. So you need 3 lines to get fourths. Let's try it again. Half, half, half. You're going to do it to this colored piece. You can do it to this colored piece. And this one. And you're not done, because remember it says also split the rest of the whole. Oh, so I gotta split this one too. In half, in half, in half. Hopefully that was fourths. I need all of them now, so there's the 1/6, right? I need all of them to be into fourths, and they are. And I'm gonna circle, this is step number 3, only the amount of new pieces that the numerator says in the first fraction. The numerator says circle 3. So I'm going to pick up my green. I'm going to circle 3 in every one of these pieces. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to circle how many again? I'm going to circle 3. So I circle 1, 2, 3. Take a look at what that looks like. Okay, I don't circle that little purple one there. I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to circle 3 again. You can see which lines are theirs and which lines are mine if you look carefully. Hopefully you can see it on yours. You're going to circle 3 here. And then you're going to circle 3 in this one. You're going to circle them in every piece. Then you're going to circle 3 in this one. And 3 in this one. You don't circle 3 over here because, why? It's not colored. So you don't circle 3. So to find my answer, the numerator is, let's look at step 4. However many pieces have both colors. Okay, this one has both. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, sorry, I forgot that I did the 3/4. So it's 15 have both colors. The denominator is how many pieces there are in the whole thing. Guess what? You need to be a little bit smart when you do this. Well, a lot smart, but here's the deal. You don't want to sit and count up every teeny tiny piece. You want to count it up once and then multiply it. Let me give you an example. Here is where that first real line was. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, I'm going to write 4 here. 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 times 6 is 24. If that was confusing to you, then you can count up every single one. I'll do it fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Don't forget these ones. 21, 22, 23, 24. So my final answer is 15 24ths. All right? Okay, let's try the next one. Keep your purple and green out. Use the sevenths bar. So they've done this in sevenths for us. When you draw your own, it won't be done for you. You'll have to draw the actual bar going from 0 to 1 whole, and then you'll break it up into, this case, sevenths. Let's make sure they have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I have to show 4/7 of it. So I'm going to take my purple and show 4/7. 1/7, 2/7, 3/7, and four of them, right? 4/7. Okay. Check mark the 4/7. You showed it. Next, if you're having a hard time, look at your journal, but we're going to go a little fast. You're going to take each of those purple pieces, all 4 of them, and you're going to cut them into thirds. So that means you need 2 lines. But you don't just do it to the colored pieces, you do it to all of them. So I extend my pieces, you can tell clearly outside the line, so that I can tell which ones are their lines. See, I can make them bolder. Go ahead and do that on your paper too. And which lines are my lines, right? Okay, so now I take my green and I go to the numerator. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Oh, I did the thirds. I just need to now circle 2, the first 2 of every 3. So I go like this. Okay, in between 0 and the first printed line right here, I'm going to circle 2 of them. 1, 2. I skip the third one. I'm going to do 2 in this one, 2 of this piece, 2 of that piece. Do I need to keep going? No, I only circle what's colored. Now, my numerator is however many pieces have both colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. My denominator is how many pieces are there in the entire whole. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. If you hated counting that much, you could have just gone, well, there's 3, and there's 7 pieces. So 3 times 7 is 21. The answer to this is 8/21.